What is the best dehydrator for me? Which one should I choose to stock my pantry full of foods just like this? You can see right here all my dehydrated foods. How do I choose? Today we're going to talk about that. I'm Darcy from the Purposeful Pantry, and I want to be your dehydrating BFF. And so today I want to answer all the questions about how do you choose the right dehydrator for you to dehydrate foods to put on your pantry shelves to serve your family whenever you need it. So if you're looking for a way to waste less food, to save money on your groceries, to take care of the bounty from your garden, one of the best ways to preserve, one of the best and easiest ways to preserve is by food dehydrating, which we use a machine just like this that we use to put some warm air onto our food to take out the moisture and make it so that, just like I showed you here, it can go on your shelf so that it can be in your pantry all year long and you can use it whenever you want. So let's walk through what you need to do to choose the best dehydrator for you. Now, to get started, there are basically two types of dehydrators that you can use that are electric dehydrators. There are some air ones that you can do, or you can hang your food, or you can build a solar dehydrator. We're going to concentrate just mostly on the electric dehydrator now because it's the most accessible for most of us. So we have two kinds. We have a stackable kind, which is like this Nesco that I have right here in my kitchen. That is one that you put food onto layers and stack them up, and the fan goes from the top down or from the bottom up and blows hot air onto your food to dry it over time. There's also the cabinet style, like this one that I use primarily, which is an Excalibur. It has a fan in the back of the machine, and it blows that warm air across all the trays of your dehydrator at one time, drying them all. Now, what's the big difference? Stackable machines tend to need to be rotated while they dry because the air comes from one direction down or up through the whole column. So the things that are closest to the fan tend to be the things that dry the fastest, and the things away from the fan tend to dry the slowest. So sometimes when you have a long process, you need to rotate those trays to get things back in front of a fan. Typically, they are less expensive, so they're a good starter machine. If you're not really sure how much you want to get into this, they start at about the $120 mark for the higher end stackables, down to about $35 or $40 for some really lower end machines. So what's the difference in the price point? Usually the higher end machines have a higher wattage, which means they run better and more efficiently. They use a little bit more electricity in the beginning, but they dry faster. So you kind of just switch those two there. The lower end machines tend to have a lower wattage, which means they take longer to dry because they run so much lower. You're going to find that these are generally between 600 to 1,000 watts. Lower end ones from about 250 to 400 watts. And so there's a big difference there, almost twice to three times the power to run, which means the higher end ones will dry faster. Now the cabinet style machines, because they have a fan in the back, they dry more efficiently across the whole machine at once. So they tend to dry a little faster overall. That's not always the case because like my Nesco here is a 600 watt, it dries really well, it's really efficient, and it does a really good job. The cabinet styles also may not need rotating because the fan runs through the machine instead of up and down the machine. So most things get about the same amount of air coming across them. Now you may find that one particular cabinet machine does have some hot spots, which means it dries a little bit better in certain areas than others. And you might want to rotate on something that takes a long time to dry. But for the most part, I rarely ever have to rotate trays in my cabinet style at all. Now the price point on those can run anywhere from about $120 up to $600, $700, $800 if you go for some really fancy thing that most people don't even need. I tend to go into the range of from 120 to about 250. That is the range about what most people can have in their homes that they can afford. They almost all work exactly the same. And the other thing that can change how a machine is priced is the material that it's made from. Almost all of the stackables, I can't even think of one that's not. All the stackables are made, the smackables, I almost just said that. The stackables are almost always plastic, okay? Now, it's gonna be different grades of plastic, so the better machines that you get, the better grade in plastic you're gonna have. So that's another reason to go with some of the better named machines is because you know that that's gonna be a better machine. Now, there is no need to worry about plastic leaching into your foods with these because we don't use temperatures high enough to make that happen. Now, if you're using a low-end machine that is of a company nobody's heard of, I wouldn't trust that as much because you don't know necessarily the kind of grade plastic that they really use and what its heat point is. But for these, you're good. You're not going to run this high enough to really cause a risk. However, if you're concerned about that, go to the cabinet style machines that are almost all made of some type of stainless steel. Now, some of them may have a coating on the inside to help make it so that the moisture doesn't affect the steel cage. Some of them will have a plastic tray. Most have a metal tray. You can look at that if you need to. That can be the difference there. You also want to look at, for all machines in general, you want to try to make sure that yours has a temperature gauge. Now, with the cabinet style machines, most of them have a digital temperature reading on it. For most stackables, not all, no, because Presto has a digital. Most stackables may still have a dial that you can turn to that's not digital, and there's one brand of Excalibur, the models of that machine that still have the dials on it. You're not doing digital, you're doing a dial, so that you have to worry about a circuit board breaking, but that's so rare that I don't even worry about it. But having that temperature change means that you can adjust the temperature for the kind of food that you're using. So you're not going to use a higher temperature for a food like a strawberry that can get burned over time because the temperature is too high for the amount of sugar that it has. So that a variable can give you a better quality outcome in the end. Now, as a little aside here, most dehydrators don't have a temperature gauge on the machine. So you don't know what temperature to use, you just know you can change. And instead of trying to go to the internet to find out what temperature you need, or to go look in a manual that sometimes are wrong, I'm going to tell you some of the manuals that I've seen for the machines that I've tested, they're wrong. So what I have in my shop is some handy dandy little tools for you to use. It's either a sticker or a magnet that you can have to put on your machines or on your refrigerator to know what temperature to dry pretty much any food that you're interested in. And I'll have a link up here in the iCards and down in the description box below to get these, because they're really handy. Now, another recommendation I have is before you go out and buy a machine, think about these factors first. What space do you have to put it in? Do you plan on having it out on your kitchen counter all the time, or do you need to put it away sometimes, or do you want to have a permanent space for it someplace other than your kitchen? I dry on my dryer in my laundry closet because that's the only place that I have to permanently put a machine inside the house. I also have a couple machines that are out in the garage that I use for overflow. And then this Nesco right here, which is one of the ones that stays in the garage, I also take it outside when I'm doing things like onions and garlic. So if you think that you're going to be outside with it most of the time, make sure that your manual for your dehydrator, you can always look them up online before you buy them, says if it's okay to put these outside. Now, most of them, for liability reasons, will say do not. But as long as you have a good outdoor rated plug on the outside of your house, you'll be okay if you keep it out of any kind of weather. So if you have a covered patio or an outer garage that's kind of covered that keeps it from the elements, you can be safer to assume that it's going to be okay to do that. But you have to think about that space and then measure the dehydrator. You can get the measurements usually off of any of the sites that they sell them, and then you can kind of figure out your space. You want to have a good 6 inches clearance around your walls if you're going to put it in a corner, because you need that airflow to be good. Like right now, when I do most of my in the kitchen dehydrating, it sits right there and we're good. I pull it away from the wall, pull it out from under the cabinets, and we've got some good airflow. A second thing to look for is how loud your machine is. Now, there are some decibel readers that you can download onto your phone to test the one you might have now if you're looking to upgrade to a different kind of dehydrator, and you can get a general idea about the range of how loud things are. And I also have a blog post where I list a bunch of them and how the decibel is, and then what you're looking for to compare it to about the noise level. For me, if my dehydrator were to sit right here, it is in the middle of all of our living space and it is heard everywhere. So no matter how quiet my machine is, if it's right here, everybody's going to hear it all the time. But on almost every listing for any dehydrator, look for the decibel level, because that will give you a comparison about how loud it is in the environment, and that you can decide whether or not you want that in your home. Now, the third thing to look for is to think about how you're going to use your dehydrator. Are you the kind of person that is only going to do beef jerky for some snacks? Maybe you'll do citrus in the winter, getting ready for Christmas time to decorate with. Maybe you'll do some fruit roll-ups for the kids, an occasional apple chip. You don't need a big machine for that. Some smaller stackables will work just fine for you, and it'll be something that you can put away because it's kind of small. It can get tucked away under a cabinet or in a closet someplace, and that'll be fine for you. Are you somebody who likes to have access to it more often, that you think you'll be doing more projects, but you don't have a large garden that you're trying to harvest from, and you just want to have access to it? Well, any size machine will work for you from the middle size down. You don't need some big super machine. If you have a very large garden and you have a lot of produce that you know that you're going to be dehydrating throughout the summer, getting ready for the winter to put away, you need to think about a couple of things. Do you want to get a really big machine? There are some that have like 25 shelves. One from Cabela's is like that. That is meant for large quantities. Sometimes commercially, people do it for commercial reasons, but they need a lot of space. Do you have space for one that's that tall that you can easily access? Or do you maybe need to have 2 dehydrators that you can use, one for the main thing and then another as overflow? So here's the fourth thing that you need to think about when buying a dehydrator. No matter what any person on the internet tells you, most of them work about the same. The thing that matters the most is the price point, and only because of how it's made. A $40 dehydrator is not always going to be as good as a $150 dehydrator. But if you're going to buy a really low-end machine, it's probably not going to last very long. It's going to take a little while longer to dry things. And especially if it's a no-name machine that you're just trying to play with, that's probably not going to last you more than a year or two because it will probably die out. Now, that doesn't mean you have to go spend $250 to $400 on a dehydrator at all. It just means be really smart about what you're purchasing. Don't go for the lowest end machine if you can possibly help it. But one way to save money on buying a dehydrator is to go to your thrift store or put out word to your friends and family that you're looking for one, because most likely somebody's going to have one that they've got stored they probably will never use, and they will be happy to give it to you as long as you give them some of the stuff that you make in return, because that's a great way to do it. You're going to ask, what machines do I recommend? And I'm not going to ever say I recommend one machine over the other. I'm going to tell you what I've used, what I've tested, and what I will settle with, okay? I have tested probably 20 machines at this point over time. I have used a low-end $40 machine from Aldi. I have used a $5 machine from the thrift store. I have purchased like really big Excaliburs and used them for a while. I didn't keep them because I didn't have the space for that kind of machine. But what I'm going to recommend to you to purchase is the machine that you can afford for the space that you have, because what I use isn't going to necessarily be something that you can use because of your space or your needs. So these are the machines I'm going to recommend based on my experience with them of the last 18 to 20 years that I've been doing this. These are the machines that I recommend. That doesn't mean that if you pick something different that you've made a bad choice. It doesn't mean if I didn't say that brand and that's one you've been looking for, that maybe that's not the one. Always ask your questions down below, because then everybody can kind of chime in together about their experiences and I can tell you what mine were. But these are the ones that I recommend most often because they have proven themselves over time. Excalibur. Excalibur has a whole range of machines, from the old kind of bulky plastic machines, the 3900s. It's still my favorite one. I will keep it forever. From that to their new version of the Performance and what's the other one called? Performance and I don't remember what the name is. The cafe kind of opens on the doors. I don't remember their tag name for that brand. But every Excalibur I've ever used has been good. Another brand is Magic Mill. I would stay away from the lower end machines just because I don't tend to like the lower end machines of any brand. They just don't last as long. So I would say anything from the mid-range up, Magic Mill is great. Make sure that you check the wattage, because some of them that have the higher trays sometimes have a lower wattage. If you're looking for a really big machine, the Cabela's 24 liter is yay tall. I mean, it's really big. 24 trays. It has proven itself to be a good machine over time. Nesco. This Nesco, every brand of Nesco that I've ever tried and used is a good machine. There is a step above the one that I'm using. This is a Stat Master. It's the Garden Master above it that you can actually extend to 30 trays, and it's 1,000 watts. It's a good investment for somebody who wants a stackable, who wants to stay down on price, and it is a great machine to use, and you can adjust it to however many trays that you need. So it is worth that investment. I just prefer cabinets over stackables. I just do. So those are the big brands that I would recommend. There are tons of machines coming out now of all sorts of brands, all sorts of kinds that you may find that you like. Bench Foods is one that's really making its name on the market now. There is the brands from Cabela's, which is a sporting goods store here in the United States. Their higher end machines work really well. I wouldn't necessarily recommend their lower machines because that's the one that I hear most often that comes back with problems. Casuria is one that I have used for a long time, and I have recommended for a long time. It is great. Sahara is also another brand that I do recommend. Now this one's a kind of particular different kind of machine. It can fold up. and get stored away flat. It is amazing. And then you open it up and then you run it because it is wide. It can put a lot of stuff in it, but then you can tuck it away and put it away, and it doesn't take up any space anywhere. I keep mine in my back linen closet when I'm not using it. It can be really great for those of you who are in RVs or very small spaces that do not have even any room to store a dehydrator out all the time anywhere. So if you have questions about any machine that you've been looking at, that you've used, that you have questions about, please put them down in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer them. Other people will chime in to say what they found about those machines, and we can go help each other pick the best dehydrator for you. Now, if you want to see some reviews that I've done on dehydrators, check this playlist right here, and it will walk through a lot of them that I've tested and showing you how to use them. So until I see you again next time, happy dehydrating, and remember, nevertheless, she preserved. See you again next time.